All right. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to the Scott Moon Base. You guessed it, Scott Moon, and we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what I have going on in the writing world, where we used to be when we had a lot of people doing the Keystroke Medium podcast, and kind of where I'd like to go in the future. So I am getting fired up. Surprisingly nervous. I think we did several hundred Keystroke Medium interviews and ask me anythings and that sort of thing back in the day. Of course, I had Josh Hayes. He always did an awesome intro. I had Kayleen and everybody. Oh my God, stage fright. I woke up this morning and really wanted to do this, and I made some notes and got started. So I'm not somebody who gets stage fright, but here we are. So, all right. Um, as some of you know, Keystroke Medium, we had a very active group, and I'd like to get back to that, get some of those conversations going again. But I haven't really asked anybody else if they're interested in doing interviews or stuff. So for now, we're going to stick with some writer updates and what I have going on. As you'll see, this is my new office. I no longer am writing in a furnace room that's kicking on and off. There is still some acoustical issues. I have people upstairs being loud. I have people on the other side. They weren't really being loud, but I did go mention them that I was going to be doing a broadcast. So all right, so we'll do writing updates. In the future, I'll probably have some interviews with writers who I don't know, and then also some collaborations, just kind of some Ask Me Anythings with some writers I do know, and I know a lot. So we'll have a good time. And then I have on my notes, it says something entertaining. So I'm not quite sure what I was planning on putting in here for that, but maybe we'll get around to it. What I'm working on now. So as most people that know me, my writer friends, I tend to multi-project, and I don't recommend it to most writers because it's a good way to drive yourself completely insane. But I also can't stop myself. So whatever that says about me. Here's how it works. I get up in the morning. I usually try to write first. That's always been my policy, to do the most important thing for your goals first. So for me, that's writing. Sometimes it's working out, which would be nice because I'm having a hard time getting consistent with that. But I want to get the words done. When you go full time, you think you're going to just have a time to do like all the projects, and you'll always be ahead, and it'll be great. Well, I don't know why, and maybe we'll get some people on here to talk about it, but that's not how it always works. It oftentimes, when writers go full time, they suddenly realize that they get even less done for some reason. Some of that, it goes to, you're available for everything. So like in my case, I worked a lot of jobs. I was always working nights and on call outs and then writing books. And so I wasn't always available as maybe I would like to have been for the family. So now I have a policy that's basically a yes policy. So if my wife says, you want to go for a walk? I say yes. If my kids want to go to a movie, I say yes. We always do those things, and I'm really glad and really fortunate to be able to do that. It does open up some time drains. So if you are watching the video live, pop something in the comment. Let me know you're here so I can say hi. So far, I don't see anything, and that's perfectly fine because I am getting back in the flow here. One of my loom lights just went out too, but I don't think it matters. And it locked up. Okay. It doesn't like all of my unused applications. I'm going to close some things here. Okay. As it would be, the computer I'm using for this, that has everything hooked up to it, all my microphones, is the slowest, oldest computer I have. So I'm a little bit off task, as I should be. So I write multiple projects. I start on one and I try to get about 2 to 3 hours of quality writing per project. When I say 2 to 3 hours, that's actual writing time. I don't count breaks. I don't count anything in between. So 2 hours of writing can take me till like 3 in the afternoon sometimes, depending on how focused I am or how focused I am not. Currently, my number one tier project is The Last Reaper 16. The Last Reaper was my breakout novel back in 2019 that I collaborated on with Jan Chaney. And it did very well and kind of was a proof of concept. And I realized that, yes, someday I could retire from the police department and write full time. That took a few years. 2023, I did go full time and take my retirement. So I could have stayed on the department longer, probably would have been smart from a purely financial perspective, but I was making more money writing than I was with my regular job, and it seemed like a good idea, and I'm glad I did. I would like to, or I'm available to, coach or mentor, or just contact me by DM if you're a new full-time writer or wanting to go full-time and you have any questions, let me know and I'll give you my opinion. It's not always real fancy advice, but it is pretty solid, I think. So I write Last Reaper 16. We hadn't worked on that project for several years. We wrote Homer Lost, which was a 15-book series. Also did Galactic Shield, a 4-book series, and Starblade, which was a 6-book series, plus a few of my own side projects, mostly Tall Boys, which is 6 books plus 3 long novellas, like 150-page novellas. And then it's time to come back to The Last Reaper. So I had to reacquaint myself with the universe, which was fun and daunting and terrifying. And it is a challenge because there's lots of characters in that universe, lots of things to keep straight, and trying to get all the fan favorites while not just dumping them all into one scene and letting them go at it, although that could be interesting. When I get that done, I work on a secondary project. That was Tall Boys. I spent about 2 years working on that. I went into a direct sales experiment where I took a high-level marketing course and learned to do direct sales. I set up a Shopify store. I set up all the funnels, books on demand. I used programs like Unbounce and Mouseflow and others to monitor the marketing and do a lot of stuff that was really pushing outside my comfort zone. It was a great learning experience. I think for my genre and my solo books is what all of this marketing pretty much goes to, because my collaboration books have their own giant fan base in the Cheneyverse. So I've pulled everything back out of the direct sales. You can still buy paperbacks direct from me through my Shopify store, but all the ebooks are back in KU. It's a genre thing. And it's also far less customer service. I was having to help people download ebooks and stuff quite a bit, which was not really a problem, but I'm such a pleaser that anytime somebody had the slightest problem with anything, I felt horrible that they didn't get their book immediately as I promised. So this is easier, it's simpler. Anybody who's an author now knows that marketing is constantly changing and it's an enormous headache, and Facebook and Amazon and all of the platforms keep changing the rules, sometimes almost monthly it feels like. And the unfortunate truth is, if you want your books to be read, you have to get some marketing, because nobody's going to read a book they don't know exists. So I spend quite a bit of time on that. So my solo project currently is in a post-apocalyptic series called Chaos Forever. That's the series. The first book is Red Vapor. I began writing that way back, I think probably 2018. We were chatting, me and some other writers. One of them was Devin C. Ford, who writes post-apocalyptic fiction set in the UK, which I found very interesting and fresh. And we were going back and forth, and I had talked to him about writing in his universe. That didn't work out. the projects that I had started kind of stalled and stopped and started. And I always, circle back around to old projects. And a year or so ago, I started talking to um, Mark Olin Lester, who writes some amazing post-apocalyptic novels and zombie fiction. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to open that back up. So I started writing on that. That eventually led to the publishing my current series. There's one book left. I'm halfway done. I really want to wrap it up. It turned out to be a lot more techno thriller than expected due to the delivery mechanism I had for the end of the world in that. But that one's coming to a close. When I get done with that, I'm also doing some ghostwriting, which I don't talk about a lot. For lots of reasons, you can't really talk about the details of a ghostwrite. I know lots of writers I know to pay the bills sometimes will take a ghostwriting project where they're writing for a more famous, I guess, or author or authors. And so I'm working on that. And it's actually pretty fun. It's interesting to write and be creative and not have to worry about marketing or anything. You just turn it in, edit it to taste depending on your contract, and then hopefully it's worth the time you spend on it as far as the money returned. Personally, I think most authors should spend most of their time writing on their own projects to build their own library and their resources. But it is something that people do, and you got to make a living. And I thought writing some books in that way for somebody else, write for hire basically, would be a lot better than going back to like law enforcement or some other civilian sector job where I could not set my own hours. That's pretty much what I'm working on right now, although I have about 6 other projects that creep up from time to time because I can't stop writing on multiple projects. If you can stop, don't. Just write on one thing at a time. That's my advice. Today, I'm going to take the kids to see Spider-Man: A Brand New Day. That was going to be my topic for this talk. I was going to ask the audience if they thought I should go or not, but we just decided to go. All right, couple quick things to wrap it up, and we'll call this one a done deal. We're looking at what, 12, 15 minutes. In the future, when I have some other writers on here, we'll go longer. We'll discuss movies, books, questions about writing, and questions that people have. So I may try some live writing segments and maybe dive into how I do dictating versus drafting versus audio review. Real briefly, I have a process where I usually take what I wrote the night before and I listen to it through an app called Speechify, but there's lots of other apps, and I follow along as the computer reads it to me. So that way I don't miss words or skip ahead. And when I get done with that, then I'm usually in the right mindset to write new words, and I write as many words as I can. I edit as I go, but I also send stuff off to editors and beta readers, and I use various apps to help me edit better than I can just with my brain, because I'm not a very good speller, believe it or not. And last but not least, I did start a couple of years ago a Substack. It's Scott Moon's science fiction Substack, where I was posting stories or bits of my books. I am writing some short stories. I'm writing one called Ready or Not Apocalypse, and that leads into the Chaos Forever series or story verse. And I'm working on one called Faraway War, which takes place in a story that I am planning to write probably this fall. It's one that my son wanted to see, a specifically massively epic military science fiction, because he only reads fiction. I mean, he only reads historical military histories mostly. He's been reading lots of Napoleon. He started that very young. And I told him I would write that. So I'm working on that series. It's pretty tough because I'm kind of overloaded. I'm really behind on my deadlines. And I apologize for that because I know there's a few people that are like, you need to get these things done. And I'm working on it very, very much so. That's all I got today. I will come up with some topics to talk about each week. I'm going to try this once a week on Saturday, unless a lot of people tell me that's a terrible day for these. I'm going to have these available for replay on my YouTube channel once I get around to editing and uploading those. It might be a day or two after the live before those go up. And we'll see you next time. I'll get some writers and we will break down the craft of fiction and just have a good time. Stay safe and enjoy your reading.